Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the All the Places We'll Go show. Every Friday at 8 a.m., we showcase the journey of an extraordinary individual, where they share their experiences, both their highs and lows, about how they were able to achieve what they have. Now, this week is certainly no exception, and I can safely say that Dom is currently the world record holder for the youngest person that we've ever interviewed on the show. He epitomizes the fact that age is no barrier to success, and he's been able to scale up a brilliant marketing company, Social Chain, in a relatively short space of time to over 700 employees in over 5 locations around the world, and is even listed on the Düsseldorf Stock Exchange. I mean, look, that's pretty impressive stuff. Dom is one of the co-founders of Social Chain, and I am very proud to say an ex-alumni of Edinburgh University. So we have that in common, Dom. However, Dom openly admits that the journey that he's had has not come without a toll on himself and his personal life. Today, he's a mental health advocate and is currently carving out a new path, having left Social Chain a few months ago. So it's with great pleasure that I welcome Dom onto the show this morning to talk about his journey. Welcome, Dom.
Thanks, Richie. And given I'm the youngest person, this will be the shortest show, then, won't it?
Well, it's hopefully won't be the last. But over to you, Mark. Let's start off with the first question.
Hi, Dom. Great to have you on the show. Fantastic that you've given us your time. I don't think it will be the shortest because you've packed it in. I mean, it's safe to say you've had a pretty amazing journey. But to get us started, obviously you have moved on from Social Chain. So how does it feel to let go of, I guess, your baby?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, so for that, you've got to take it back to when we started Social Chain to ask what it felt like to start growing and start having one. And for me, it was always kind of understanding that Social Chain was going to be my university of business. I guess that's probably the best way to put it. Having dropped out of Edinburgh, Richie, and like you, and not finishing, we kind of decided that Social Chain was going to be something we did for our start of our careers. Given the fact that it was social media, it was new at the time, and it was always going to evolve and probably, as we kind of knew, stay a young person's game. We always knew there was a time limit on what we could do with the business and where we could take it. So we kind of set ourselves some goals of what we would like to achieve with it. And it was to have firstly, a great business, which was a place people wanted to work and wanted to be, and people were happy there. Secondly, we obviously wanted to have what in terms of commercial success and a fantastic story, which had a natural ending. And that natural ending for us was when we listed it in Düsseldorf. So for us, conceiving something at the age of 20 and taking it to a public market by 27, we felt like we'd done what we needed to do with the business. We felt like it was the right time. And I think, for us, it would have felt a lot less emotional if it wasn't during COVID, obviously. We had a much more deeper connection with the business, having to go through COVID and get the business to a place of stability. That made it much more. I guess people were probably a little bit more shocked because of the situation. If it was business as usual and the world was going fine, it would have felt like a much more natural movement. So, how it felt, kind of on those principles of how we started the business. It's strange to say, but it felt like it was time to go. It felt like it was time to leave and time to start the next journey. We always said we would be at the forefront of what's possible from founders, and make sure that we understood the business. And we started to see the world change, and with TikTok and other things coming out, we kind of knew that as individuals, especially, that there was other things in the world we wanted to take on. So yeah. It felt strange. I think the hardest part has been letting go of the people and letting go of the friends and letting go of the great place it is. But I felt every single emotion. I felt happiness. I felt sadness. I felt guilt. I felt joy. I felt so many things that, looking back now on it just felt for us at the time just right. And that's very strange to say, and people were very shocked about that, but it just felt right for those reasons.
Well, you know, Dom, you know what that talks to is that everything has a time and place, right? And that, you know, you had that sense of actually this was the right time to be kind of moving on, doing things differently. And actually, by the way, I suspect a lot of founders don't have that same sense of when the time has come and gone. And I think it actually takes a lot of maturity to be able to achieve, you know, to be able to go, actually, guys, now's the time to check out.
Yeah, completely. I think it's a very non-emotional decision. You know, people's businesses are their personalities sometimes, and I think there's a famous quote from Batman. You can, I think it's you can stay long enough to realize you're the hero, or I can't remember what it goes, but Bruce Wayne puts it much better than me. But yeah, you're completely right. There's a time, and it's only kind of in hindsight that people realize that it was the right time. So yeah, no, completely. I think I'm still, what am I, 27 years old. There's a long life ahead of me. There's a lot of things I still want to do in my life, and yeah, I feel like I learned exactly what I needed to learn with Social Chain. It was a fantastic experience. I'm so proud of everything I've done. Every single person that the business has come into contact with has, you know, hopefully impacted their lives in a positive way. And I'm looking forward to doing that again in the future.
Love it. Fantastic to hear, because there's so much more to come. But I know that, let's get a bit of the backstory about Social Chain. I know there's maybe a pivotal moment, and that I found quite entertaining when I heard it for the first time. So, but tell us where that entrepreneurial urge came from to start a company out of nowhere.
Yeah, I mean, let's take it back. I think I wonder if the moment you're talking about is a personal one of mine where I ran out of toilet paper. Yeah. So that's what, you know, to think that, you know, one of the founding of the parts of the company was the fact that we ran out of toilet paper is a funny part. So I was at Edinburgh, like, you know, many students before me, and I went out one night, got really, really drunk, and woke up the next day to an empty flat, no flatmates, and went to the toilet, and there was no toilet paper. And like a logical person, what I decided to do was log into Twitter and tweet about it from an account called Student Problems. You know, not the most rational move, but hey, it was kind of, Twitter was hot at the time. I was enjoying it, and I thought if I can create a persona under Student Problems, I can have a bit of fun. So I started then documenting my life as a university student, and telling the story of what it was like to be at University of Edinburgh, how expensive cheese was it when you're at university, all these kind of crazy things you only notice for the first time when you leave home. And that quickly grew to over 50,000 followers. And I was like, you know, just commenting on life, and my friends started to realize it was me, and, you know, we had a bit of a laugh. And then Steve, who's the co-founder, I founded Social Chain with, was running a business at the time called Wall Park, which was basically Gumtree for students. And he was like, I need to reach students. There's 50,000 students here. Let's bring it together and see if we can make something. So we kind of came together at Wall Park and started building more and more social media communities. And we made the decision that the value was actually in the social media communities over the website. So we got rid of the website and we focused solely on building social media communities. So I guess where that spark came from to turn those social media pages into a business was passion. We were doing it for fun. You know, we were starting social media communities and we were growing them to 250,000 people in a day. And we were just having fun creating content, making people laugh. And what we realized then was that, you know, we're owning eyeballs. And at 20, I think at that age, we were 19. We didn't realize that value of the eyeballs could have to brands. So this is when, you know, TV advertisement was probably, you know, the king of kings, and people were paying £50 for 1,000 people to see their content. We were reaching millions of people every single day. So we kind of knew that there was some power here, but we didn't know how and why and what and where to take it, because we were just still so young and naive. And then there was probably a really defining moment in that period where we were just running communities. We were making little to zero money, because we were doing a little bit of advice for people, so we were getting by. And then someone approached us with a game called Tippy Tap, and we offered him what we called a thunderclap, which was a post on all our channels for £800. So that was the kind of scale we were dealing with there. And he said, and it's quite a somber story. His parents died and left him an inheritance. I don't have the money for it. And we're like, oh, we can do £500. No, he's like, I've got the money. I've just spent my life developing this game. So we're like, okay. We kind of put him on the back burner. We spoke to other people who might have £500 to give us. And I said to him, would you do a ref share? And he said, yeah, 100%. If you make money, we'll share it. So he agreed. And we sent the documents over and we said, we'll do a rev share. We'll do 50-50 rev share. And unlike every single other time, we told people what they needed to do. So we told people that they needed to go and sign up to this link here or buy this here. And for this game, we just thought a little bit differently. So what we're going to do is we're just going to create a conversation around the game. We're going to make it seem like it's the most talked about game already to drive interest and people to check it out. So we did our Thunderclap, which is £800. And the game went viral. It got 2 million downloads, was on the BBC, was top of the app store above Facebook, Instagram, all those apps above Snapchat. And yeah, it realized that, we're in this world where people are creating apps and trying to get downloads, and we're typing away and getting 2 million downloads to this product. And the game went on to be a huge commercial success. We shared the revenue, and that revenue essentially was our seed funding to start the business. But it was then that we knew that what we could do here. So we kind of had a real case study. We had real proof that we did it for ourselves. We knew the methodology. So we took that concept and turned that, us taking brands, putting them on our communities, helping brands, and turn that into a business. And as I said, the entrepreneurial spark came from a lot of trying, a lot of testing, but it was born out of passion and something we enjoyed doing.
Wow. I mean, Dom, that's insane. I mean, I didn't know that backstory. I didn't know about the game, and that's just incredible.
Yeah.
What really surprising is the essence of entrepreneurship, right? Where effectively what you're saying is you were kind of bubbling along, right, just getting by, and then you were getting by, but staying in the game to the point where something happened, right? There was a trigger moment in time, which then allowed you to elevate and kind of get to that next point. I would love to hear though, Dom. So you moved from and you guys are still so young in your days. How did you move from that sort of entrepreneurial kind of test and learn to a bit more organization and scale up over time to kind of
yes, that's a great question. So we then had a kind of concept and a model we could take to people, and we began working with apps across the UK, and also did some time out in New York and Silicon Valley, consulting on products. And one of our clients at the time turned around and said, do you want some investment? And for us, it was that kind of part where we're taking someone else's money, where we kind of have to be mature about it now. We can't sit in our front rooms. We can't work from a beach in Thailand. We can't go to the World Cup in Brazil. And for us, we really debated that, whether we wanted a lifestyle where we can travel and see the world and have fun, or we wanted to build a business. And that decision, I think, is a lot of people face, because they have something and they either choose to remain a freelancer or to keep their skills to themselves, or build something small so that they're in control. But we had this is probably the time when Steve and I spent the most time in conversation about what we wanted to do. We would be up until 1 a.m, discussing it, looking at pros and cons, speaking to mentors. And we really, really hashed out what we wanted to do. From Steve, we always knew we wanted to build a business, but from Steve's side, he was worn out from Warpack, and he wasn't ready to go into something. From my side, I was probably more looking for that stability and looking for kind of a foundation to go from. And we both came to an agreement that let's just give it a go. Let's just see what we can do. And I remember the day after we agreed the investment, Steve came to me and said, okay, you can no longer run any Facebook pages or Twitter pages. And I was like, what? But he had the kind of vision to say, we need to be working on the business, not working in the business. So that for me was like the moment where we stopped going from running channels for fun and having a nice business where we can get up and go wherever we want to okay, we're going to spend some real time now figuring out what this is and seeing if we can scale it. And that caused like a basically shift there, because now you become responsible for people you employ, and you become responsible to obviously shareholders as well. And those kind of two responsibilities kind of define you as a person, because you know, in the early days you have to make sure everyone gets paid. That's your job, you know. Above everything else, you've got to hit that button on payday to make sure everyone's got the money in their account and that they can carry on as normal in their lives. And that responsibility was kind of what took us to that next level, where okay, we have to be, we are responsible, we're accountable. You know, a lot of these people were young, depending on us, and then as we grew, you know, a lot of these people started to buy houses, they started to get girlfriends, and they started to get boyfriends, and they started to have, you know, more to lose. And we really care about our people, so we stomach that really personally. So we always said that the kind of the people make the ones that drive us for our role to make it the best place to be for them to be happiest, but also the most commercially successful, so they can grow and flourish within themselves.
So Dom, you have achieved some amazing things, but you just hinted there at, you know, with it comes a great responsibility. I think it might be a Spider-Man quote about with great power comes great responsibility. We'll get through all the superheroes, but yeah, the purpose of this show is about the fact that life is an undulating journey, and it's never perfect, and it's the undulations that actually give you a bit of energy. But it hasn't been a straight line journey for you, and so I mean it's a thing that some people may not be aware of. But you say that you've been sober for 5 years now. Can you elaborate a bit about what that journey has been like for you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how it's got to 5 years. It's flown by. So yeah, you know, those kind of stresses and turbulations which we were going through in the early days accumulate. So, you know, you start to, as a young person, you know, you're hardly responsible for yourself at this point. You know, I'm 21 years old. I don't know how to look after myself yet. I've not really learned that as well as I could have done. So you start to stomach these responsibilities. You hit a sweet spot in the business where the investment comes in and you hit an actual growth curve. But when you hit that first plateau, and you start to see cash balance go down, and you start to hear clients pulling out or not paying and thinking the world works, it does. While we have that on our shoulders, as I said there, it was our responsibility. That weight on your shoulders gets bigger, and you're not necessarily prepared to deal with it yet, because you haven't learned what to do. Because it's all new, you kind of start in a complete gaze of looking at a tidal wave about to hit you. So, and that's normal. That's natural stress of business. And you know, in hindsight, looking back now, I know that's normal. But at the time, I didn't know it was normal. So, I took to a lot of drinking to self-medicate, to soothe. And what happened basically, I went from being that 21-year-old who was celebrating the success of having a business to a 22-year-old who was personally dealing with demons of running a business, while still having the huge success. You know, we were having a, you know, huge success at that point. But for me, I always feel like the minute we did something great, something bad was going to come. So I was waiting for it, and I was trying to, you know, with the drinking, trying to avoid it. So my drinking got really out of control. I became an issue to myself. So I started to really hurt myself in my life. I'd be drinking 2 bottles of wine a day, and on weekends binging. So, you know, for me, it was going from a normal 21-year-old to a 22-year-old, you know, who was really struggling with themselves. And for me, I kind of had some instances where I broke my ankle one night on a Thursday and woke up on Friday in A&E. And there was a really pivotal moment where I began to upset other people and hurt other people, including my mum not saying she recognised me anymore as an individual, and including friends really sitting me down and telling me what's going on, and me as well, verbally being very aggressive towards a friend who was trying to help me. And it was kind of those combination of events where I said, that's not me. That's not me as a person. I could almost stomach hurt myself, and I kind of wanted to hurt myself. I think that was the devil, because I wanted to hurt myself. But the minute I stepped the line and hurt other people, I knew I needed to do something about it. So with the kind of intervention of Steve and really other close friends of mine, I decided to go and get therapy and get support for what was going on at the time, because I didn't know. That's the thing, I didn't know what was going on. I was just drinking and having these outliers and these moments of real dark thoughts in myself. So went for a course of CBT therapy, managed to kind of unravel what was going on inside me. Got the kind of diagnosis from the doctor that I was struggling with, a bit of really, really high anxiety, and that anxiety was manifesting itself in drinking. So, the problem here isn't the drinking, it's the anxiety. If you can work on anxiety, the drinking will go. But at the same time, if you stop the drinking, the anxiety will get better. So to kind of unravel the darkest parts of you takes a long time. Stopping alcohol takes less time. So yeah, in that moment, he said that the best thing I think you should do is give up drinking. So I said, okay, I'll give it 6 months, see how I get on. And that was in June, and then 6 months was Christmas. So I said to him, I remember seeing him in about November time and being like, oh, I'm really looking forward to celebrating at Christmas by having a glass of champagne. And then he said to me, why would you do that? He went, well, I've done 6 months sober, so I'm going to celebrate. He went, do you think people who smoke celebrate by having a cigarette? He said, do you think people who give up heroin celebrate by having heroin? You shouldn't celebrate not drinking by drinking. And it was just that kind of very bleak statement where I was like, okay, that makes complete sense. Why reward yourself with something that's punishing you? And it was in that moment where I was like, I don't ever need to drink again. I don't need to ever drink again. I can be fine without it. Those first 6 months were very, very difficult, very, very tough, and I had to do a lot in terms of removing myself from those in situation. But yeah, I did it. And it then allowed me the kind of clarity of thought, because I wasn't binging every single day. I wasn't constantly drunk, to deal with the anxieties that were causing me to drink in the first place.
Dom, I mean, genuinely, thank you for sharing that. It's an incredible sort of story in terms of your ability and resilience today to be able to have tackled that demon within you. And genuinely, just hearing it is absolutely inspiring, the way that you've tackled that situation. And for me, what it talks to is that it feels like there's such a glamour around the role of entrepreneurship today. I mean, I speak to so many young people on a weekly basis, and they all, are trading off stable jobs to try and become entrepreneurs for the glamour they see across social media. And actually what you've just demonstrated there is it genuinely has its complete ups and downs, particularly for people when they may not be ready for such big responsibility in that early part of your career. Can you perhaps talk to some of maybe both the highs and lows of specifically the sort of the social chain journey, and how was that for you?
Yeah, I mean, what's the lowest low? Oh God, we've had a few. I think for me, like there was the highest highs were in the early days. I think everyone gets a real that first time you do like X is the first time it's the best. I think it's heroin, where the first shoot up's the best, and then you're always chasing that afterwards. But for me, the real success and the great parts came in the really early days, where you were breaking the first time you do this. The first time we kind of worked with the likes of Amazon was great. The first time we did a video content, and we managed to sell a video, and all those kind of stuff were just such like astronomical highs. And then of course in the business we celebrate them in such like great ways. So every Friday we'd have a thing called creative review, where we'd kind of look back at the week and see what I know every company does it, but we did it in our own special way. And I remember the great weeks we had really big creative reviews. So one day we had Bongos Bingo, where we did our own Bongos Bingo, and that was just I think that was off the back of us winning like our kind of first 6-figure campaign, and that was just a fantastic day where everyone in the business was so happy. And we were just all so proud and coming together and celebrating it together. I think as you scale, and the kind of relativeness of the highs change, you start to get a bit numb to those kind of things. We'd be signing. Fortunately, now we're doing great work with global brands across the world. So it doesn't feel the same when you win it. You're kind of like, okay, let's you're used to it now. And then the kind of highs become quite personal. So you have real personal moments where, for example, for me, a real personal moment, there's two people in the business who I kind of really looked at as individuals who I think I could support. Very junior staff. One of them came from one of them whose father unfortunately passed away due to alcohol. Me and her built a really close bond, and she came in as an apprentice just to try and see whether she liked the business and something, and whether she her mum was kind of a bit concerned, wanted to get into industry, and I spent some time mentoring her. She was 18 when she joined as an apprentice, and she's now in a management level. Over the last 3 years has really grown and stuff. And her mum, who I saw for the first time in 3 years, she just came up to me and cried and said, "Thank you so much for everything you've done for Abby." And that for me was a personal high, because to see the impact that just caring and seeing what you can do to people's lives became like a really powerful moment. That became motivation. Forget commercials, forget anything. Your motivation becomes making people's lives better. So yeah, I mean that they're the highs. It changes from in the early days financial and big clients and stuff into the later days more meaningful things. So that's kind of the evolution, I think. I'd say, and from the lows, they're probably a similar journey. So that, the early days, the lows are, oh my God, we've got payday on Friday, we're not going to make it. What do we do? And you stress out. And then the lows, we've lost a couple of big clients over things which are nothing more than frustrating, which really hurts. We have a couple of I think in the early days when people leave, you take it quite personally. But the lows, the same way the highs get lower, the lows get higher. So I think by the end of it, with the thick skin, nothing felt like a low. Everything felt like a problem you could deal with. There was nothing that was ever incurable. So you kind of plateau to a kind of one mono mood towards the end, and a low is just a problem to deal with, and a high is something that you do savor the highs. Like you do savor the real meaningful highs. You still do savor them, but the lows you just kind of get on with.
So Don, that's a lovely story about Abby and her mother. You've clearly inspired a lot of people, and the comments coming through on the chat now reflect that. But who was it who inspired you?
Yeah, I mean, have I been asked that question before? Have I been asked that? I don't actually think I've ever been asked that question before, Mark. It's a very good question. I have two inspirations. One's called Mum, and the other's called Dad. Those to me, my dad taught me a lot about hard work. He taught me a lot about kind of the principles of what I needed to do. My mum taught me the caring side, I guess, and how to treat other people. Those two, I love them. I love them deeply, and they, as we were talking before, I've not seen them as much as I wanted to at the moment. But they inspired me. Beyond that, I think when you look at the world figures, it's quite an interesting thing. I've said this before to people. I'm not inspired by anyone on this earth right now. It's quite an interesting thing. I don't buy into Bezos. I don't buy into Elon Musk and the kind of hype around them. I like to really analyze someone based on their legacy. So I am inspired by some like historical figures who you can really drill down into their kind of story in their life and get a full perspective of them. So I guess my big influence in that world is Napoleon. I really do think him as an individual is fantastic, and I do, all things considered, I think he's one of the greatest individuals in the world, probably the best ever to have lived. So yeah, that's how I work. I don't buy into this whole admiring people. I think they're really good. Elon Musk is great, but I'm not a big fan. I'm not obsessed.
That's the most profound answer we've ever had to that question.
Really?
without equivalent. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So yeah.
There's one in the Q&A. I can see that. Did you do that?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. So you, hey Dominic, given you guys were a pioneer, what's the next frontier or the next big defining moment in social media that will engulf us? You mentioned TikTok, but just more generally, what do you think?
Yeah, it's a great question. So yeah, TikTok was, if we were having this 2 years ago, I'd say TikTok. I remember telling the team about it coming over, what's going on with it. So that's there. I think the biggest evolution that will happen. I think when we talk about real revolution here, I think the real revolution needs to be a change in hardware. I think when we saw the smartphone come out, we saw a revolution. If hardware is going to evolve into, be it glasses, be it something else, that's when we'll see the next real revolution. Until then, we'll see an ebb and flow of people going between platforms. Facebook kind of declined, now it came back and now it declined. Instagram's having an identity crisis at the moment. What is it? Is it a camera app? Is it a sharing app? Is it a video platform? So they'll ebb and flow and change, and interest will spike when new features come out. But in terms of, real revolution will come with a change of hardware, and a change of, if we go from phones to screens or something like that, then we'll see a real revolution. Until then, it'll just be having to navigate fast flowing waters.
Great.
But good question, yeah, good question. I haven't been thinking about that for the last couple of months, actually.
And by the way, your answer has genuinely got me in a stir and got me thinking about what next hardware sort of revolutions could take place. So it's a really thought-provoking sort of ... thing to the way to answer. But Dom, I want to kind of pull us back to a little bit more about the journey, and the reason is because clearly, as part of being an entrepreneur, one of the things that you were able to achieve was come full circle, sell the business, get out, and then sort of almost start again on what you're about to embark on. But I want to just ask, you clearly kind of merged with Lumaland, and then obviously went public. I mean, how was that? I mean, was that all that it was sort of lived up to be as the entrepreneurial sort of dream at the end of the pinnacle?
I think being able to look back and say you've created something which is still there and doesn't need you is yes, it is the pinnacle. To be able to say it's still there, and the humility to say it doesn't need you anymore. It is the pinnacle. I think it is to have such great people there, and to know that you've gone from the small team of people to a big company, and you've got HR people talking to you about things. It's like, it really is, and that's the nice part. That is the really nice part, is that you can have those serious thought-provoking discussions whether you think it's time to go, and it's going to be it's going to continue to grow and continue to be a great place. Then that really, it really is what it's lived up to be. That is true.
That's awesome.
So you've shown how you're flexible and ambitious and entrepreneurial. So I'm curious to know what might be next in the next couple of years for Dom McGregor.
Yeah, I mean, I've been thinking the same thing. So if you've got any answers, let me know. No, what's next is I think I'm doing a lot of things for me right now. I've fortunately given the opportunity to finish my degree at Oxford, so I'm studying at Oxford University at the moment, which is really great. Today, after this call, I'm getting on my bike and cycling across the country, which I wouldn't be able to do otherwise. I am, spending some quality time with my new dog I've got. But in the meantime, that's all very nice. I do feel I've got itchy feet. There's a couple of challenges in the world I'd like to take on. I'd really like to normalise the sobriety space more. I'd like to have a real impact in helping people live better lives. I really would like to support specifically men who are going through difficult parts of mental health and well-being, and I'd like to continue to make an impact to people's lives. Like the story of Abby I mentioned there, I'd like to be able to do more of them. So anything which allows me to continue to fulfill myself in those areas would be quite interesting. But yeah, I'm not, fortunately, I'm not in a rush. I can sit there back and think about what that looks like and how I can achieve those personal aims of mine, and then see where it takes me.
Dom, it really feels like you've got such a high degree of empathy, and I suspect, as you mentioned before, it's probably come from your mum, and some of the lessons from that, and it's actually so genuine to see. And one of the key things you've just mentioned is around mental health. And I'd love to get your reflections on. Obviously, the last couple of months has been extremely difficult for all of us in so many different ways. So how do you feel that this environment has sort of impacted people's mental health, and how do you see some of the coping mechanisms that people do?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think we're in a really interesting part when it comes to mental health. I think we're in a period of completely overwhelming amount of recognizing and understanding mental health. The awareness is at an all-time level, and when you're a marketer, awareness is a great indicator. But I do feel there's a huge void between awareness and action, where we all know about. I think the mental health awareness weeks have been fantastic, but we really need to think more about mental health actions. Mental health action week maybe might be a better idea for the future. I don't know many people who aren't aware of mental health right now, but I know a lot of people who are unaware of what to do around their mental health issues. So yeah, I think we're still looking for ideas. And being completely frank, I actually think the level of awareness and the lack of action is a negative, because people are unsure, which then fuels mental health more, and creates this labeling character where I've got mental health issues, but I don't know what to do about it. And I think that's damaging. So I think the idea around understanding what actions you can take to improve your mental health and how you can start on that journey is the void which needs to be filled right now, especially in the male sector, because yes, they may think they've got mental health, but they'll internalize it and probably not talk about it. And that then becomes worse. Oh, I've got mental health. Oh. So yeah, I think anything like this, which is a huge crisis and huge issue around the crisis and change and everything that's going on in the world right now, it's obviously going to have a huge impact, but it's not going to have the impact it's going to have because that's awareness is still there. We need the action. It's just going to make more people not know what action to take. So yeah, I mean, you can probably hear in my voice how frustrated I am around that, and how I want to do more in that area to how to help people, what actions to take, and how to be able to start on that healing process. So I'm so sad. I'm so sad for people who feel like they're helpless, and I really want to be able to help them.
Yeah, and the days are getting shorter now, and so we're kind of going into the darker months with regards to the pandemic. The next 6 months where probably worsening lockdowns and no cures and so on yet. So what are you going to do to maintain your energy and enthusiasm and vitality over the next 6 months?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I think I get energy off other people. So being locked down and being in quarantine and being away from people doesn't help me. And I have thought about, fortunately, I'm in a positive place in myself, so I know I can deal with it. For me, it's trying to, dropping messages to people, catching up with friends, having phone calls, as much as you can do to keep that sense of community. Because fortunately, one of the biggest things I always felt was that I felt alone because I was kind of on this journey of entrepreneurship, and you do feel alone when no one can relate with your problems. And that's the worst part, when no one can relate with your problems and you feel isolated. However, the best thing about right now is every single person can relate to your problems, because we're all in the same situation. So you're not alone. You're actually probably more part of a community of people who feel the same than ever before, because we're all in this together, because we're all going through the same thing. We can all talk about it. And the reason people are having conversations around COVID is because it actually helps them, because they're talking about how they're feeling, and they're talking about what they think. And as much as it's negative conversation and people do get tired of it, it is helping people be able to process what's going on right now. So for me, we're all in this together. We all know someone in the same situation. We all have friends that we can talk to about it. We all have family members that we can talk to about it. If you don't have family or friends that you can talk to, there's support lines out there of people who on the other side of the phone will also be going through the same thing what you're going through. So more than ever now, we are not alone. You are not alone. So for me, it's a case of, I'll have a 5-minute rant with my mum about something because it's, she gets it. When I told her about business problems before, she didn't get it. She didn't get it. She didn't get why I was feeling like I was feeling. Now she understands. So it's so much more easy, So yeah, that for me is, fortunately, I'm surrounded by people who get what's going on right now, and I can talk to them about it. So I'd say to people, we are in this together, and we're only going to get through it if we're there for each other.
Dom, this is so resonant with me, and it's uncanny because just yesterday, I attended a virtual session with 15 complete strangers, and it was called the Togetherness Group. And we just sort of shared some of the key things that we were going through. We'd never met before. And we just had an hour to kind of have, just have this sort of this session. And it was so inspiring and yet and enlightening at the same time, just to hear from other people what they're going through. And it was, it really kind of created that emotional connect. So I just so rested in what you just said there. Dom, we're going to run out of time. We could probably talk for hours, but I just want to come on to 2 questions from both Saffron and Richard. I'm going to kind of pitch both the questions to you, and then take them as it is. So the first one from Saffron is, take on the issues. Are you more drawn to entrepreneurship, or would you consider joining an established organization? That's part question 1. And question 2 from Richard is a fantastic answer about your mom and dad, caring and hard work. What do you think is the common ground for you between the two?
Yeah, so the first question, entrepreneurship or organization, great question, Saffron. And I think it comes down to whether I trust myself more than I trust somebody else. And I have to trust myself more. So my answer would be entrepreneurship. Could I add value to someone else who is willing to listen and be receptive? Yes. So I'm not ruling out organization, but I have to trust myself to be able to come up with better answers than what's out there right now. If I meet someone who I admire, who's profoundly smarter than me, and there is a lot of people out there who are smarter than me, I will help them. But I think I have to back myself. The common ground between my parents and myself. So my parents are both in the health profession. My dad's a GP, my mum's a carer. So I think the common ground is that I appreciate what they're very good at. And I kind of taken their foundations and added my own personality to it. So, when I was growing up, I played a lot of sport. I was quite boisterous. I had a lot of friends, and taking that kind of foundation of them in terms of what they give me, hard work, caring, family values, and adding a little bit of competition in there, and a little bit of just me. You get quite a nice blend. So I think that's probably the common ground, is that they really laid a really great foundation for me. They put emphasis on the right things in terms of really big on education, really big on just looking after people being developed, and the right thing. Taught me a lot about adventure and stuff, and then I just combined that with my own, a little bit of me, and then that's probably it. But 2 very good questions.
Well, Dom, as ever, brilliant answers. Unfortunately, the time has just disappeared, so we are out of time. So all that remains is to give you a massive thank you. You've used your success and platform in a really, really positive way. And I'm reminded of the expression, be kind, everyone you meet is fighting a great battle. And I think that's really what you've brought to life for yourself and for everybody, actually. So I'll hand over to Richie to say his final words, but a huge thank you from me on behalf of everybody today.
Thank you, guys.
I certainly echo that, and I think encapsulated with what Saffron just said. Awesome start to this Friday. I mean, it really has been a truly inspirational session, Dom. The youngest person ever come onto this show, but I tell you what, mate, I mean, honestly, super inspirational, and it's just been so enlightening. So it's been incredible, the journey that you've been on. It's been really great having you here. For all those watching, just so you know, as we are every Friday at 8 a.m. on the show. Next week, we've got Claude Littner, the right-hand man of Sir Alan Sugar from The Apprentice. He's also been the CEO of Tottenham Hotspurs, as well as run a variety of different organizations through his time. So do come on and join us next Friday, 8 a.m. To hear about Claude's journey. So until then, have a great weekend and see you all next week.